Well, the first thing I want to say today is, bah. So what is up with all these sheep this week? This isn't the official Good Shepherd Sunday. That's the fourth Sunday in Easter. But for all the sheep and shepherds that are in our readings today, it kind of seems like this is Good Shepherd Sunday light, maybe, or something. So did you pay attention to all those references? Jeremiah talks about both good shepherds and bad shepherds. He quotes the Lord, who says, "Woe to the shepherds who destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture." But the Lord also says, "I will raise up shepherds over them, and who will shepherd them, and they shall not fear any longer, or be dismayed, nor shall any be missing." And of course, Psalm 23, that's the one that we probably learn first, certainly remember the best, as witnessed by the fact that we all couldn't resist reading all the verses. It's often read at funerals, and it has such comforting words and images. The green pastures, the still waters, food to eat, and wine to drink. And right up there in importance, as in the Jeremiah reading, fearing not. And then in the gospel, Jesus has compassion on the crowds because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Okay, the epistle doesn't have any sheep. But still, this is the church of the Good Shepherd. There's a theme here. And because we're the church of the Good Shepherd, we've heard a lot about sheep and the Good Shepherd. We probably won't hear anything strikingly new today, but it never hurts to be reminded of things that we've already learned. So let's look a little more closely at some particulars about sheep. They're puzzling creatures. For one thing, they don't know their limitations. They don't know they're sheep. They don't always act in their own best interests. Because of the way they graze, they can destroy a pasture by overgrazing. So they must be moved regularly to give the pasture a chance to renew itself. Their hooves can pack dirt solid. Another reason to keep them moving so that it doesn't have a chance for that to happen. At least with domestic sheep, their wool must be shorn periodically so that their skin can breathe and they can remain healthy. They must have a shelter when it rains. If they are to thrive, they need a shepherd to direct and protect them, to, as the psalm says, lead them to green pastures. The shepherd must know what the sheep need, to anticipate needs of the flock, when to shear the sheep, when to move the sheep, how to guard the sheep, how and when to call the sheep. And the sheep, thankfully, know the shepherd's voice and follow it. Paraphrasing our collect today, the shepherd knows the flock's necessities before they ask. And the shepherd does all this, no matter how tired he or she may be, or how challenging the circumstances. And we are much like sheep, at least sometimes. We don't always know our limitations. Just as bad, if not worse, we may think we know our limitations when we really don't. We overextend ourselves, often out of the purest and most selfless of motivations. We don't always act in our own best interest. Sometimes we think we're acting in our own best interest, and we aren't. Whether we want to admit it or not, we need a shepherd to help us thrive. In today's gospel, everybody is tired. The apostles have been out healing and teaching. Their efforts have been strenuous and worn them out, and Jesus knows it. Perhaps Jesus is experiencing some fatigue as well. Not only is he being followed around by crowds in the verses of Mark between 34 and 53 that were omitted from today's reading, Jesus just feeds 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish and then walks on water to catch up to the apostles in a boat. Not much. So if Jesus isn't exactly tired, he's definitely been pretty active. So wherever he goes, people find him or are already there waiting for him to heal the sick, to learn what he has to teach. He's taking care of that flock, but also taking care of the apostles, who've been herding that flock as well, figuratively speaking, in his name. But just as the shepherd who takes care of his flock, no matter how tired he is, Jesus once again shows himself to be the good shepherd. He says to the apostles, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest a while." A striking example of advocating self-care. And here's the thing. At Church of the Good Shepherd, we are sometimes the sheep and sometimes the shepherd. Our parish is well known for its generous, loving, and giving nature. We conduct and support outreach ministries and in-reach ministries. We advocate and participate in justice for everyone. We live out our baptismal vow of striving for justice and peace among all people, of respecting the dignity of every human being. And sometimes we need to be taken care of. If we are to be the good sheep who belong to Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we must listen for his voice when he tells us to come away to a quiet place. We must find that place where we can rest and renew our depleted energy. But that's a bit tricky, because what a quiet place may look like is different for different people. Introverts want to curl up with a good book or a hobby they enjoy. Extroverts seek active and social ways of recharging their batteries. But it gets tricky because sometimes we're encouraged or even confused about what our quiet place really is. Introverts can behave like extroverts and vice versa, but that behavior doesn't renew their energy, but rather depletes it. So sometimes we think we're going to our quiet place and end up growing even more tired because that wasn't really it. It's no help if we work so hard at having fun that it becomes just another form of work. Just as sheep thrive by listening to and following their shepherd's voice, listening to Jesus, the Good Shepherd's voice, will help us to discover and embrace where our quiet place really is. We will be led to a new pasture so that we can be prepared to graze on the old pasture which has rested, regrown, and renewed. Listen for his voice. Follow your good shepherd to your quiet place, to the green pastures, to the still waters. Follow Jesus the Good Shepherd, and you will be fed.